Hey, everybody, it's Winter with the Shift Spotlight, and today we are here with Richard Brock, and he can be found at onboardlegal.com. We are going to get into what Richard does, but before we do, Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Winter. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I like to start out with a little bit of fun. Is there a fun fact that you can tell us, or something that is something interesting that maybe everybody doesn't know about you?
Well, let's see. This is interesting to me. I don't know if it'd be interesting to anybody else, but I have always thought, and I think this is accurate, that if I did not have to work and make money for a living, I would be a high school football coach and history teacher. I think that would just be a whole lot of fun and a great way to spend a life. So
actually, that's a pretty cool fact, actually.
Yeah, unfortunately, my expenses exceed the amount of money that I think I could make doing that, which is why I didn't go down that path. But I did think about it, and I still think it would be a lot of fun.
Yep. I love it. Okay, that's awesome. So you're in the legal world. You're what we call an attorney that has turned into an entrepreneur. I should have been an attorney. I'm glad I wasn't an attorney, but man, I've been in the luxury real estate market for 25 years, and nobody, including attorneys, quote my contract, quote real estate contracts better than me. So why don't you tell our listeners at a high level what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of OnBoard Legal. We are an executive search firm and consulting company for the legal industry. And basically what that means is we serve law firms and corporate legal departments really all across the country. And they engage us and hire us usually when they want to add talent to their firm. Typically that's partner level, more senior level lawyers who have a client base. They also come to us for strategic consulting. And we also work with law firms on mergers and acquisitions, which is for anybody who's in the legal industry, that's a big thing these days. There's a lot of consolidation going on, and we get involved and help facilitate those deals.
So how did you get in this direction? So you were an attorney previously. What kind of law did you practice?
I was a litigator. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those things. Growing up, my father was a lawyer. So I always assumed that that's what I wanted to do. And that was the plan. And I went to college with the plan of becoming a lawyer. And then of course I went to law school, obviously with the plan of becoming a lawyer. And the plan worked exactly the way it was supposed to work until after I'd been practicing for about 2 years. And then I realized this was not what I needed to be doing for the next 40 years of my life. So then that begged the question, well, after 3 years of law school and 2 or 3 years of practicing, if you're not going to be a lawyer, what are you going to do? And I had an opportunity to get into this business, to get into the legal search business. And that's what started me on my path. And then after I worked for another company for a few years, and then I started my own business in this industry, which is what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, so that's interesting how that all happened. I have a lot of relationships with attorneys, and the litigators are the ones that specifically, they either figure it out really quickly, this is not what I want to do, or they, they're in it for 20, 30 years and they go, I've lost my entire life and I don't know why I have done this for as long as I have. Do you ever watch Suits? Like I'm finishing it up,
but
sure. Yeah. Okay, so me and my husband were saying like, the top 3 things that they say in Suits over and over is like, when you pin them against a corner, it's like, what do you want? They're like, because like they'll pin them against a corner and they'll say, okay, what do you want? And then the other one is with all due respect. And that's quickly followed by something of disrespect. And then the third one is if it's all the same to you. And we like literally watch those 3 things. But it's funny because on the show, you see these like litigators, and you see these attorneys working like well into the night hours all the time, right? So I can understand why you didn't take that path and decided to move to the entrepreneurship route.
Well, and the thing is, but there are some lawyers, particularly litigators, who just love it. They just thrive on it. Like right. The Suits example, Louis Litt, he was a character who just lived it and breathed it. And there are lawyers like that. And those are the lawyers who should be practicing law.
Right, exactly.
You know, I mean, just
They're
they've got a true
set.
passion for it.
Right. And it's a skill set.
Yeah.
So what I've learned about like law firms, and again, my experience is pretty, I have a lot of clients that are attorneys. I deal with a lot of law firms. But what I've learned, or what I've seen maybe, is that when business is good, they bring on a bunch of attorneys. And then when, you know, things start getting tight and the buckle needs to be reined in a bit, their way of managing the firm is they let a lot of people go. And then the business picks back up again. And then they're scrambling to get attorneys again. I saw on your website, you say, you know, when the attorneys stay and grow, everyone wins. And so when you're dealing with firms and what you do in that example that I just gave you, how do you help these firms kind of like maintain their attorneys so they're not bringing them on, getting rid of them to, you know, rein the cost in, rein the overhead in, and then having to go find new ones and hire them back? Because what they don't realize is long term, that's costing them a whole lot more than it would be to keep them through the rift. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts on that. One is, I do think law firms have gotten a lot smarter about that. In the Great Recession, you know, now what, 13, 14 years ago, it is true that law firms across the country really laid off a lot of attorneys, particularly associates who are usually younger lawyers, you know, more recently out of law school. But then when the economy picked back up, they found themselves in a real bind. You know, they had a lot of work that needed to be done, but not enough lawyers. And the associates are typically, you know, worker bees. They didn't have enough people to do the work. So they have learned from that. And a lot of law firms have gotten a lot better. They will still conduct some layoffs, but it doesn't seem to be nearly to the extent that it was back then. I think law firms have gotten better about a more balanced approach. The other thought about that is, we will place associates with our law firms, with our law firm clients, if that's what they want us to do. Most of what our law firm clients want us to do, and where we spend probably 75% of our efforts, are on finding partner level lawyers who have books of business. So even if the economy is down, and even if they are laying off some lawyers, if we can bring them a senior level lawyer who's got, you know, $1 million, $2 million or more book of business, they're going to be interested in that lawyer regardless of what's going on, because that's, you know, he or she is bringing revenue to the table. So it's a different, you know, that's a different type of hire than hiring a worker bee associate.
Right. So then where do they go wrong? Like, so they obviously need to bring on that hire to help stabilize the business. Where do you typically see them make mistakes that end up having to lead down that path?
Well, it's not necessarily a mistake. I mean, it certainly can be. It can be a replacement, but it's much more often it's an addition. So, you know, if it's sort of like in the corporate world, it's like, okay, if you can hire a really, really, really high-end salesperson who is going to bring you $1 million, $2 million in revenue at you know, somewhat minimal risk, and risk is always subjective, but a somewhat minimal risk, you know, most companies are going to want to do that. You know, even if they didn't have, you know, they didn't have that person before, even if it's not a replacement, it's like, look, if I hire this person, they're going to bring revenue to the table for me, and that's really what partner level lawyers with a client base will do. Obviously, they're bringing legal acumen, but equally, if not more importantly, they're bringing clients. They're bringing revenue to the table.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So let's shift gears and let's talk a little bit about your particular company and how you've been managing it. Because what we do here at the Shift Spot and the Shift Spotlight is we're all about like CEOs' strengths as well as their weaknesses to help other CEOs and founders and co-founders not make the same mistakes that we all did when we were starting out our company. So do you have a leadership team that that manages staff for you, or are you the go-to guy for your staff?
You know, I would say, so my company is 12. There's 12 employees, you know, not, you know, W-2 employees, not counting, you know, 1099s, and there are some of those as well. I would say it's interesting you asked me this, because one of the things we are currently working on is sort of tightening up our org chart, because when we had, say, 6 employees, it was pretty easy for me or for one of my colleagues to, to wear all hats. As you know, as you start to ramp up and your team starts to get bigger, you got to put some more structure in place. And that's actually what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it absolutely does. Ken and I always talk, and Ken is my partner, but we always talk about like the 2 things that tend to break businesses. It's process and it's people. And typically you don't end up putting the process in place until you get the people. And you need the people to grow, but the process often gets, established once you get the people. So I can absolutely see how, you're growing your team and then you're needing to get those systems in place. So what's been the hardest part about running your business?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the hardest part about running our business is sometimes our clients, it's kind of funny. This is probably almost a universal sentiment, but if our clients would listen to us more, we feel like things would really go a lot more smoothly for them and for us. Yeah, I would say, and of course, like most businesses out there, we have some clients who listen to us, almost without exception, and those tend to be the clients with whom they hire the most lawyers from us, which is what they're paying us to do. We have the best working relationship with them, and their law firms are acquiring the most talent, rather than the ones than our clients who push back on us with every suggestion and every recommendation.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I had an attorney client one time, and he was in corporate law. And there was a city pipe that ran under the corner of his house that was like, it was protected by title insurance. And so because he was an attorney, he decided to take the title insurance policy and make all these changes to it. And the real estate attorney is advising the buyer, who's a corporate litigator, not a real estate attorney, but a corporate litigator, not to make these changes to the title policy that way, because it's going to actually void his policy. But he chose to do it anyways because he knew better, right? Now, nothing ever happened in that scenario. Nothing happened with the pipe, and it didn't ever become a situation. But, it's one of those things where it's like sometimes the best thing you can do is take the advice from the professionals, right? And that's what you hire for. But often it's hard to get out of your own way. So I do think that's, a common thing.
Right. And certainly I know I'm as guilty of that as anyone. I mean, I think we all are, probably, to an extent. I mean, I think most people who are relatively driven, relatively intelligent, there's a part of us who think that we have, if not all of the answers, then at least most of the answers. And I think you said it well. In the vast majority of instances, we would be better off listening to people who are experts in their given area.
Yeah. So, are you looking to scale your company? Are you looking to grow? Are you looking to maintain? Where are you in like your cycle?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we are in an active growth mode. Right now, we are working in 14 markets across the country, and we want to double that in the next 2 years.
Yeah, and I saw too that you said on your website that you have a goal of covering every significant legal market in the U.S. by 2025. So how do you intend to do that?
So, it's a combination of, hard work, business development, which I think is more or less synonymous with sales, or close enough to be synonymous, at least in our world. It's hard work on the sales, business development front, as well as marketing. And there are, and there's a couple of ideas that we are in the process of implementing marketing wise.
Gotcha. So if you had to do it all over again, you're in a growth phase, you're, the CEO, and you are, running the business. if you had to go back to your younger self when you were just starting out and making a lot of mistakes along the way, what advice would you give your younger self or your less experienced self in how to run a business? Or what mistakes would you change? It's kind of like, I would have invested $1 bazillion in 2012 buying all the real estate in the world, because hindsight,
Sure.
that was the bottom, and nobody rings the bell at the bottom, but like, if you could do it all over again, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Sure. Well, I mean, needless to say, I've made more mistakes than I can count.
Yeah.
But I think that's just, I think that's a part of it. Well, starting right there, I would have probably been a little kinder to myself about the mistakes that I made than I was when I was younger. But putting that aside, it's almost a cliche when people talk about, hey, the key to building a successful business is you have to have A players. You got to have the right people. Surround yourself with individuals who are smarter than you are. But it's really true. I mean, it's really, really true. I've had 3 or 4 different businesses that I've run, that I've started and run. The business that I have now is the most fun because I have the best team. Mm-hmm. Everybody on my team is smart. They're capable. They're valuable to the organization. They are pleasant to be around. They fit our culture. And that doesn't mean that we don't have challenges, because of course we do, but it just makes all the difference in the world. Any situation that comes up, any problem, any opportunity, any challenge, a lot of times I try to just sit back and listen and just don't even talk, because most of the time, one or more of them is going to come up with some really, really good ideas. And that's really, I mean, if there's one piece of advice I could give to any young or aspiring business owner, it's that it is just essential that you surround yourself with smart, talented people. And even if you're a solo entrepreneur, surround yourself with smart, talented people in the form of consultants, peer advisors, mentors, podcasts like yours, books, videos. I mean, there's a lot of smart, talented people out there, and the more you can take advantage of that, the smoother your path is going to be.
Right. Well, and speaking of books, you've got one coming out in first quarter next year. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah. So I wrote a book. It's called Win the Talent Game. It is written to be a guide for lawyers and law firms who are in the lateral hiring business, and it's really almost a business within a business for law firms. It's basically it is intended to teach law firms how to hire high-end lateral candidates, and it's also intended to serve as a guideline for those high-end lateral candidates who are considering making a move from firm A to firm B, because of course it's a big deal for them. I mean, it's a major event. It's a major event in their career. So it's coming out first quarter of 2024, probably late January or early February is what we're targeting with the publisher.
Okay, perfect. So your ideal demographic is going to be law firms, right? Yes. So anybody listening, if you have a law firm and you want to grow and you want to hire the right talent, right? That's your optimal candidate. Or if you're starting a law firm, get with you ahead of time so that they have those tools and skill set even before launching it, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I would add another target audience for us is actively practicing attorneys who are either considering making a lateral move or just want to know what that would look like. Because we do hear from a lot of attorneys who will tell us, I'm not necessarily interested in making a move, but I'm kind of curious about, if I did, what would that look like? Right. What could I expect? What are the pros? What are the cons? And I tried to cover that in the book.
Okay, awesome. All right. So again, you can be found at onboardlegal.com. It was such a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you, Winter. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it very much.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.